because of everything you see up there on social media, which
Yeah.
is selective snapshots of other people's lives.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that makes you
Yes.
feel like, wow,
I'm not doing enough.
I'm not doing enough.
And yet we have to give ourselves
Yeah.
grace. We're doing the best we can.
I absolutely agree, and that's the thing I was saying about like the family things, and like and Anvi, my daughter has said like, oh, like I wish like we had a lot of family here. I wish in the social media pictures, and I'm like, that's, I mean, what can you do? You just make, we all just do the best we can with it. So yeah.
And that's why there's so much cognitive overload on us all the time.
Yeah.
And I love this exercise. I don't know about this. It's just kind of like we talked about. That's what I'm thinking. Is being mindful, like, because you're so distracted, and like you said, I start doing one task and I realize even before I finish it, I'm on to something else and I forget.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. Of course, part of it is growing old, but the other part is all of these different
Test in
things.
class. So it's not that isn't acknowledged. It's a real thing. But what I meant, when did it become normalized, is to think that you could do that. But I guess in the time, and I've been teaching like 25 years, so it obviously became normalized at the high school level then, in that sense, from what I'm hearing. But I'll just say that it's not allowed in college unless you clear it. That's what I meant. But it's actually good to know that is something that I can see where they're coming. I didn't realize that was allowed or was the case. And with your own ones. Yeah.
What
No,
about
they use
music?
their own.
Actually, music, kids listening. I did when I was young.
I used to watch
listen
TV and do work.
So
Yeah.
No, but my son, my younger son, he is so much into music. He will always need the Discord is on, like, and the headphones are on, and he's doing homework while simultaneously. And I cannot understand how he can do two things. Like, he's even sometimes singing with it. And I said, like, if you're singing, how are you reading? So I don't know how he does it, but he needs it 24/7. Like, as long as he's doing the homework, he needs to have.
I'm not listening to music. I used to just have the TV on the whole time while I was studying.
But I think it's a way of, there's so many other distractions.
Yeah.
I think you are minimizing it by having music there. You're either gonna be listening to music or you're gonna be studying,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
think it helps you focus because you are taking other 10 distractions out because the music is playing.
Yeah.
And then you can, when you're focused, you're 100% focused. You might not be listening to music in that moment, it's in the background, but it's like minimizing all the
That's
other
how I used to feel when I had the TV on constantly. Like as a student when I was studying, it was either just sometimes something would come up that was funny on the screen, or I would just be studying. Those are the only two things that were gonna happen.
Yes.
Like it meant that I wasn't gonna like zone out and think about some other thing, right? It was, even if I wasn't looking at what I was writing, I would be looking at the TV. But that's a good point. I'm not thinking of some other thing from a week ago or what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, it still focused you.
I think it
In
helps
some way,
you
yeah,
focus.
I
I
agree.
think, and it's a personality trait. Like every person has a different way of concentrating. Some
Yeah.
kids it's music, some kids it's TV,
Yeah.
some adults it's silence. For
Yeah.
me, example, like I can't read in noise. So for
Exactly.
me, it has to be a
Yeah.
quiet room.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah,
just a
speaking to
personality
his-
trait. And
Speaking to Yuli's point, like I mean, obviously it would be distracting if there wasn't silence, right? Like the kids that are yelling across the room. So that kind of, that kind of thing. For some people, they're much more affected even by noise outside.
Sometimes even if I have to read something, I say it loud, so it goes in my.
Helped, like when for the test I would consolidate my own messy notes because it would just be, like 10 pages of whatever, and then I'm like, okay, I need to have like a solid set of ideas to study from. So it was actually, I remember finding it very relaxing, and back then there wasn't as much research about it, but I remember actually liking writing and making it, and I tried to tell that to, my kids, and like nobody cared, but like I'm like, no, I'm telling you, it's actually, I'm like, don't you like, I remember one time I actually asked them that, when they were first starting high school, I go, but you don't like consolidating your note, like you don't like writing it out, and like to me it was a genuine question, but so if you don't do it, you don't know how it can feel.
They're constantly typing and their notes are all typed.
Yeah. And speaking to Yuvi's point, or his dad's point, I guess, you don't absorb it as well, or even I guess Preeti's
Maybe
talking about
that's
the
why
research.
the retention is poor.
Yeah.
Right now. But again, I think it's a different generation. We just
Yeah.
can't speak for
Then
them.
they can find other ways to obviously ground themselves, or different. Yeah. Then you work with what's there. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to change the whole format differently. We are going to talk about medical aspects of anxiety. So let's first, this flyer, everybody has it, and I would like you to just pay attention to the format.
It's on both, both sides as well.
So the first thing that we need to understand, the anxiety, everybody feels anxious at some point in their life, at some point in every day, day to day. And we call it normal anxiety or abnormal anxiety. Like, what Neela was saying is that, the cortisol triggers the symptoms of anxiety. And I think anxiety makes us function on a day-to-day basis. And what, the stress, the normal stress, like, we have the stress that comes and goes, and then we just function on a day-to-day basis. But when the stress level persists on a daily basis, like, that feeling doesn't go away, that becomes abnormal anxiety. So what are the symptoms that we experience of anxiety? And the most common are like physical, like it affects you physically, like palpitations, like your heart is beating faster, you're sweating, shaking, you're feeling like there's a knot in the stomach, like a butterfly kind of feeling, headache, grinding your teeth, nail biting. Those are the common symptoms of anxiety. And if that persists like on a constant basis, then it becomes like a big problem that needs to be treated. So then what are the types of anxiety? So types of anxiety, the most common is, what we see is generalized anxiety disorder, which is like you're anxious on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't go away. It just stays with you all day long. And some, moments are more than others, but it's a constant feeling of like, you're stressed all day long. It doesn't leave you. Then there is a panic disorder. Panic disorder is a type of anxiety that suddenly comes on, and you are just super anxious with hyperventilation, shortness of breath, your chest hurts, and then it just goes away. It lasts maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the most, but it's a very scary feeling. You feel like you're having a heart attack, and many people end up in the emergency room complaining about chest pain, and they need to be evaluated. And I'll go over like, what happens, when people end up in the ER. And that's usually like some people like, in simple conditions, like, you can have panic attack maybe once a day, maybe once a week, or maybe just like sporadically. The difference between panic attack and anxiety attack. Anxiety attack is when you are stressed about a certain situation, something is going on, and it suddenly creates a feeling of the anxiety attack happens. When it comes from nowhere, there's no trigger, then that is a panic disorder. So there's a big difference between the two. But the key is that it like peaks and then it drops, and it lasts about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes even shorter than that, but the person who is experiencing can tell you that, oh my God, it lasts all day long. Well, it feels like all day long, but it is like maybe a few minutes. And that requires treatment. And then there is social anxiety. Social anxiety is when you are in public situations, like, you're speaking in front of public, or you are even in gatherings or party, that you can have symptoms of anxiety. Some people have like in certain situations, like flying is a very anxiety provoking thing for many people. So like public speaking, flying, those kind of like situations that can trigger anxiety. And then there is obsessive compulsive disorder, which is also a form of anxiety, and it has two components. Obsessive meaning that you basically are thinking, like what Anila was saying, is dwelling, that you keep thinking about the same thing over and over again, and your mind you can't let go of it. And then, you are worrying too much. Worry is like constant worry about things that may not happen, they cannot happen. You know that they're not going to happen, but you're going to worry about it anyways. Like a lot of what ifs. What if this happens? What if this? And what if that? So whenever you find yourself like thinking about like what ifs, that is anxiety that is like going on in your mind, like worrying too much. Your mind is constantly busy. You create scenarios, things that can go wrong, and you worry about it. And then, some people kind of have the habit of counting random numbers, like, you're just sitting, just waiting for something, and you just are counting things. And that is a form of way to reduce your anxiety, because you're distracting yourself. Some people tend to repeat conversations that happen, like you had conversation with somebody yesterday or maybe a few minutes ago, and you kind of repeat it in your mind. So you're repeating conversations. And then there's, the second part is compulsive disorder. Compulsive is when you do things to relieve anxiety. Like for example, you wash like your hands 10 times, 15 times, you're constantly washing your hands, and you still don't feel clean, and you go back and wash it again. So people end up washing their hands 20 times, 50 times a day. The other compulsions are checking door locks or car doors or security things, like you just keep going and checking locks. And some people, like before going to bed, they just check locks everywhere, and sometimes it gets so bad that they cannot, it delays them. Let's say for example, you have in the morning you have this compulsion to check all the door locks, and then you come to the car, and then you have to go back again. So you get behind on your schedule, so it becomes like a problem. You cannot manage your life. That's obsessive compulsive disorder. And basically what happens is that if you don't do those things like compulsive behaviors, or you don't worry about it, then your anxiety level will be even higher. So that is your body's way of reacting to those obsessions and compulsions. And then there is anxiety related to trauma situations, like any major trauma in your life. Like for example, people who are in the military, they have combat, they have seen people dying, trauma like rape victims, or like fires, those kind of big trauma that happen. And then those situations cause anxiety on a day-to-day basis. And the most commonly we see like nightmares and flashbacks in the traumatic conditions. So these are the type of anxiety that we see on a day-to-day basis. Now, how do we know that this is anxiety and this is not like something else is going on? So symptoms, the anxiety is usually related to the stress that is going on in your life. Okay, whatever is going on is stressful. It releases cortisol, and that triggers all the physiological part for anxiety. The anxiety, it comes in waves. It can be constant anxiety, or it can just come and peak, like I was telling, panic disorder, like it just peaks. So that it can happen both ways. You can have a generalized anxiety, and it can peak during the day, or at any time of the day. And generally, it is also triggered by what you're thinking. If you're you're thinking about what happened at work, or your stressful situation in marriage or with kids, that can also be a trigger and produce the anxiety symptoms. And the key thing that we need to know is that anxiety usually, you can relieve the anxiety by distracting yourself, like mindfulness, or like any kind of physical activity like exercise or gardening. Those are that's also a form of distraction, going